Good evening. We're coming to you tonight with a special report on a major military development out of Iran. We're seeing new, officially released footage that appears to show a vast and until now hidden strategic capability. It's a clear message being sent amid already escalating regional tensions.
That's the stark and frankly unambiguous message from a video just released by Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. So let's take a closer look at exactly what this footage is showing us.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, for the very first time, is the IRGC broadcasting what it claims are heavily fortified underground military complexes. And let's be clear, these aren't grainy satellite images or intelligence leaks. No, this is a direct and very intentional public reveal coming straight from Tehran.
Now, the term being used to describe these facilities is in itself pretty telling. They're being called missile cities. That's a name that was actually popularized by Western media outlets like the Associated Press and the New York Times, and it's become the shorthand for these deep underground arsenals.
And we're not just talking about one isolated base here. The source confirms that at least 5 of these underground cities have now been revealed. They're operational. And one of them is a significant facility located very close to the capital, Tehran. So the big question is, what exactly is inside these so-called missile cities? Well, the footage that the IRGC has put out is clearly designed to project strength, to project survivability, and to give us a real sense of the nature and scale of these bases.
What the video shows are these absolutely cavernous tunnels carved deep inside mountains. And the central claim here is that these locations are impervious to attack, even from the most powerful aerial bombardments. When you look inside, you can see what appears to be hundreds of missiles, already loaded onto mobile truck launchers. All of this suggests a very, very high state of readiness.
And the crucial point here is the type of weapon we're talking about. These arsenals are reportedly stocked with ballistic missile batteries. Now, why is that so significant? Well, it's because previous intelligence reports had suggested that some of these very launch sites might have been damaged in earlier attacks. So this video, it's basically a direct rebuttal to that assessment.
The footage even goes on to highlight the capabilities of specific systems. It showcases, for example, the Hamshar-4. That's a ballistic missile that's reportedly capable of striking targets up to 2,000 kilometers away. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 1,200 miles, which puts huge parts of the region well within its reach.
You know, in situations like this, timing is everything. And the timing of this video's release seems to be a key part of the message. It feels like a very deliberate signal sent at a moment of incredibly high tension.
In fact, the source material presents this video as a direct response to what it calls a two-pronged strategy from the United States. You've got diplomatic talks happening in Oman on one side, but on the other, the U.S. is issuing military threats and deploying major naval assets like the USS Abraham Lincoln to the region.
And the assessment coming from the source material is crystal clear. It frames this move not as an act of aggression, but instead as a necessary and timely countermeasure to what it sees as coercive pressure coming from Washington.
So the underlying message here is really one of defiance. It's being framed as a firm rejection of any demands that Iran should give up what it considers its sovereign rights, its defense capabilities, its oil resources, and its political independence.
The strategic implication of making these assets public like this, well, it's profound. This is an unambiguous reminder of Iran's stated military reach and, more importantly, its stated willingness to use that reach if it feels it's been attacked.
And they're not being subtle about the potential targets either. The source explicitly states that Iranian intelligence has comprehensively mapped American assets all across the region. We're talking about the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Group, U.S. military bases pretty much everywhere, Qatar, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, and of course targets within Israel.
And to really hammer this point home, the source draws a very direct and deliberate contrast. It brings up past statements by then-President Trump about Venezuela, basically arguing that any attempt to apply that same kind of pressure on Iran would be met with overwhelming force. The message is simple and emphatic: Iran is not Venezuela.
So where does this all leave us? Well, this public display of military hardware is a classic, albeit very high-stakes act of strategic deterrence. By putting these missile cities on the world stage, Iran is trying to fundamentally alter the geopolitical math for any potential adversary.
When you boil it all down, the key takeaway from this entire broadcast is this: Iran is signaling that the cost of any military action against it will be extraordinarily high.
The primary purpose here is to warn any potential adversary that an attack will be met with a massive and immediate retaliatory strike, launched from these very hidden bases.
And so, ultimately, this action leaves the entire international community with a critical and frankly unsettling question. Does revealing this kind of capability actually make conflict less likely by raising the stakes so high, or does it just escalate tensions to a dangerous point of no return? Tonight, that remains the unanswered and deeply worrying question.